Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to week 3 of Unshackled with Tash. Hope this finds you well. What an amazing week it's been for me. I'm absolutely loving putting all these recordings together to share with you guys. I am loving that I am finally able to get all this information out there. And it's been a dream of mine. Over the last 8 years, I've learned so much. I've grown so much, and I love sharing this wisdom and this knowledge with as many people as I can. And those that know me know that this is a major passion. So last week we covered blueprint, and this week we're going to do self-awareness and self-love. And you have to have an awareness to be able to do this work. You have to be aware that something's not right and that there's something that you want to change, because people only end up doing this work because something's either happened or they've gone through a major trauma, major breakup, big job loss. It's not often that people just decide to do this work, which is why I'm trying to get as much education out there as possible so people actually start to recognize, why am I going to wait till something happens? Why am I going to wait for a shit show? Why am I going to wait for a trauma, a catastrophic event? Why am I going to wait till I lose my job or my money or whatever? How about we get the tools and we get the awareness and we get the foundations and the structures to keep us in a good place when something does happen? I wish someone had taught me that, but no, Tash being Tash had to go down the hard path. But anyway, let's get into it. Self-awareness. What is self-awareness, guys? Self-awareness is the ability to monitor your own inner world and thoughts, emotions, beliefs, motivations, and understand how these factors affect your behaviors and how you interact with others. It's about being aware of your own triggers, reactions, behaviors, how we handle things. And there's 2 types of self-awareness, and there's internal, which is intrinsic, and there's external, which is your reptilian brain. Now, internal self-awareness is recognizing your own emotions, your values, your beliefs, your strengths, your weaknesses, your desires, your motives and motivations. It is how you it is about introspection and how you reflect on your inner self. And this is where we own our own stuff, and we can really sit back and look at, wow, how did I handle that? Geez, I didn't handle that very well at all, did I? Wow, I should have, done it this way. Or wow, with that information, I could have done, I could have handled something in a much more rational, healed version. And often, when we have no self-awareness, we react. We go back to the child, we go back to the wounded child, and, we defend ourselves and we retaliate and we get, upset, and we just don't handle things well, right? Which is, which takes us to the external self-awareness, and that is how others perceive us. And we're not always open and ready to hear this. It's like, think about this. When you've got a lot going on and you know that you're tired, you're cranky, you're upset with your partner, your workplace or whatever. It only takes one person to rub you up the wrong way and you'll snap. Now, what that person copped was not actually about what happened. That was a build-up of resentment, anger, frustration, and everything else that you haven't dealt with, because there has been no self-awareness and you've projected and given it to somebody else. And that's what's in them. An amazing mentor of mine who is no longer with us, and I followed him for a lot of years and still do, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he has this saying, and he says, when you squeeze an orange, what do you get out of it? You get you get orange juice. When you squeeze somebody and trigger them, you get what's in them. You can't get anything else, like an orange. The only juice you can get out of an orange is orange juice. You can't get apple, you can't get grapefruit, you can't get lemon. It's orange only. So when we push someone's buttons or we trigger them, whatever comes out is what's in them. That is somebody that is storing a lot of stuff, right? And when people can't read a room or have, healthy, open conversations, that's people that have no self-awareness, because if you have self-awareness, you can look at the situation, you can look at the part you played in it, you can self-reflect, you can look at how you possibly could have handled that better. You can also set the boundary with that person and say, you know what, that's not okay. Next time we have an issue, this is how we're going to resolve it. And you speak in a healthy adult manner. The problem is when there is no self-awareness and you're reacting from programs, patterns, conditioning, old wounds, you're not actually talking or speaking to that person as an adult. You're speaking of the age of the wound, which is often about a 4 or 5 year old child, possibly 8. But you're never ever dealing with an adult when you are having an argument or when you're projecting or when you're blaming. This is all childhood wounds. Now, when we are running on our programs, our patterns, our conditioning, that is what we call 90% of the unconscious brain. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are subconscious, autopilot thoughts. 90% is running the show, guys. So what becoming self-aware and doing this work does is it helps you get into the 10% of the conscious thinking. And this helps with changing your neural pathways, neuroplasticity, rewiring the synapses within the brain. This is all about doing the work, right? And this is obviously what I do in my Unshackled program. I have helped hundreds of people over the years retrain their brain, change their patterns, their programs, their conditioning. I've helped people understand why they do what they do, like I said in the blueprint last week. But the thing is, when you are in 10% of the conscious, that is what we call the intrinsic brain. But most people live in the reptilian brain, which is the 90% of unconscious autopilot behaviour. Now, often people don't like to make these changes because this is so familiar and that's all they know, right? And discomfort goes against the ego. The ego says, don't go there. Don't do that. You've been doing it for this long. Don't change it now. It's been working for you. Even though you know it hasn't. Even though you know you don't like this pattern, this program. Your ego gets first bite of the cherry. The challenge is going against your ego and fighting that, that voice that's saying, don't do it, because with repetition, with consistency, with discipline, you can change the way you think, the way you can change your belief system, your nervous system. You can change all of that. It's a matter of consistency, repetition, discipline, and making a choice, right? Because you think about it, when you're running on your autopilot and your subconscious, all those patterns that were handed to you, you're handing to your family. It was handed to you by your parents. It was handed to them by their parents. We've now found out through a lot of research and scientific facts, a lot of these programs can go back to 14 generations. So it's a big ask for someone to do this work. But if you know yourself that you're not living your best life, the things that you're doing are not serving you, but you can't just, make out why, or you can't understand why, start looking at your programs, start looking at your behaviour, start looking at your patterns. And this takes radical honesty, guys. And, early days, I used to help people through this. And people that wanted to change really made the effort, really did the work, because this takes a lot of practice and, like I said, a lot of discipline and a lot of consistency. And people that don't want to do the work, it just means they're not ready. But it's also because they're addicted to their own suffering. And when people are given lots and lots of strategies and tools and evidence and support, and they still don't want to change, it's purely because they are so addicted to who that person is and the version of themselves. Now, who would they be without their suffering? Who would they be without their pain? Who would they be without their story? Who would they be without their trauma, right? Now, this is where a lot of people get stuck in their old programs. And remember, I mentioned the 4 gatekeepers: the stories, the beliefs, the values, and the identity. And when we take away the story of trauma, neglect, pain, he did, she did, they did to me, all of those things, you are removing a part of their identity. Now, what I love watching is people who say, I'm done, I can't keep doing this cycle, I am so sick of watching the same patterns. Now, when I talk patterns, for example, most people that haven't done the work jump from relationship to relationship. They never ever get over a relationship that they've ended. Hands up, I've done that. I didn't have the tools then. It would be very different now. As soon as I see a red flag or an old pattern, I'm so aware of it, and it's completely removed from my life. And it's often a test to see if I will fall for the same old stuff again. Now, what happens is when we are doing this work, once you start to become aware, you also start to love yourself more. You actually set some really unbelievably amazing boundaries. You have values that are non-negotiables, and your standards, they are not lowered for anyone. Now, the old me had very little values. My standards were very, very low, and I would put up with a lot of stuff. But that was because I didn't know any better. And boundaries, oh my God, what were they? The only boundary I knew was a fence, and that was around a house. I didn't know what a boundary was. I had no boundaries. I think back to the things I got myself into and the situations that, I shouldn't be here. I had no boundaries. I had very little worth or self-worth. So I would allow people to treat me quite poorly. And you know what? That's okay. That's on me. I accept that I attracted these people because of my childhood wounds. I wasn't always treated poorly, but a lot of the time I picked people that, didn't value me, made me feel worthless, made me feel second best. But again, that's on me. I attracted these people. So I had to start saying to myself, what am I doing? Like, why do I keep attracting this? And obviously through this work and through what I'm doing, I work that out. But as soon as you start to set your boundaries, and here's the other thing, guys, boundaries are the hardest thing to do if you've never done it. Boundaries are very, very uncomfortable because you're so used to being a people pleaser. You're so used to giving in to everyone. You're so used to self-abandoning. You're so used to putting everyone else's needs before your own. And the people that get upset with you setting boundaries are people that have benefited from you never having any. And I was that person. I gave and gave and gave and gave and gave. And then the problem was I expected reciprocation, and that doesn't happen because that for me was a need being met, which I will explain as the time goes by. We do these things for a reason, and it's survival. Now, the most important relationship you will have in this world is with yourself, because the only person you're going to be spending the rest of your life with is you. Relationships come and go. Kids grow up. Friendships come and go. The only person you need to be absolutely 100% present for is yourself. You need to honor yourself. You need to see the worth in yourself. No more self-abandoning. No more, berating yourself or treating yourself like an option. You are number one. If you're not good, your family's not good. If you're not good, your relationship's not good. Your children will be affected by however you treat yourself. So if you treat yourself with little respect and low self-worth and little love, and you're always talking down to yourself, that's what your children will do, because you are the role model. What your children watch you do, they will do. Kids don't learn by listening, they learn by watching. So guys, I guess what's the scariest thing about doing this work and becoming aware and self-love? What's the scariest thing? Most people say, I don't know what's on the other side. And you're right, we don't. But here's the beautiful thing. What if it's the best thing that ever happened? What if doing this inner work and recognizing your patterns, your programs, imagine the life you could be having. Imagine the types of relationships and friendships and workplaces you could be having. Opening Pandora's box, yes, it is scary. But what's scarier? Continuing living this life, or making a change, doing something different, recognizing that the stories you've been telling yourself all these years, which in fact, most of the stories that we tell ourselves are 50% true. And a brilliant speaker and motivational speaker and neuroscientist, Dr. Joe Dispenza, has said 50% of our stories are true, 50% are embellished. Because what we do is we look for all the evidence to support the story we've had running our whole lives, which is all part of that programming and the blueprint and the patterning and the conditioning. And what happens is all our stories and memories, yes, they're real, but then we embellish them with 50% of searching for evidence to support why we do what we do, and why we are like we are. And part of, opening Pandora's box is helping you stop that. And here's the other thing, guys. Once you open Pandora's box, you can't go back. Yeah, you can put the lid back on, but it'll never fit the same. And once you start to recognize this work and how it can help you and how it shows you who you are. You have never ever been who you were when you were born, because you have been wearing masks your whole life. You have been conditioned to think a particular way. A belief system was handed to you. Your nervous system has never probably been regulated. So what becoming self-aware and self-love does is it helps you reconnect with self and come back home to self, which is my biggest passion, is to help as many people as I can doing that, which is why I have absolutely loved running my Unshackled program. Like I said, I've helped hundreds of people, and I've seen the effects it's had on families, the ripple effect on my own family. But again, I'm going to leave this with you, and I'm going to ask you 3 questions. What story am I telling myself right now? Is this story serving me? And what must I believe about myself for this story to be true? Now, I want you to go and think about that and really sit with those questions and be radically honest. And we can unpack this at some stage. I would love to help you do that. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Love chatting to you all, and look forward to chatting soon. Have a great week.